You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. That's my Halloween voice. Sorry, I had to do it. If you're annoyed, I'm sorry. It's Halloween, so get over it. We always like doing funny, goofy things for Halloween. Ryan, happy Halloween.
Happy All Hallows Eve to you.
Why can't witches have babies? Their husbands have Halloweenies. That's my Halloween joke. Because they're hollow, there's no semen.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you.
Okay, it's not that funny, but I got it. We have a fun episode today for you, and just a few things. Happy Halloween! I hope. Thanks for letting Inside of You be your podcast to listen to. I know there's lots of choices, but hopefully we're doing something right here. We're having real conversations with real people, with celebrities, with all sorts of folks. It's exciting. Also, the Inside of You online store. Tons of fun merch, Lexmas autograph scripts, ship keys from the show, autographed, tumblers and sweatshirts Inside of You, lots of cool stuff. Go on there. There's tons of stuff. And on the talkvillepodcast.com, we have autographed new artwork. Tom and I both signed it. There's only 50 prints. Get them while they last on the talkvillepodcast.com. And last but not least, well, before that, my band sunspin.com. We're trying to do another stage it, so make sure you follow us on Instagram. You can go to my link tree on Instagram. It's at the Michael Rosenbaum. And the link tree will tell you all the things I'm doing, Cameo and all the other fun stuff, cons, going to Rhode Island and Nashville, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully I can hug you. Tom and I will do a Smallville Nights at both those events. And thank you everyone for joining Patreon. You guys saved the show. Without you, couldn't do it. Patreon.com/InsideOfYou if you want to support the podcast. And you can also follow us on our handles and write a review if you really want the show to do better. Ryan?
Oh, at Inside of You Pod on Twitter, at Inside of You Podcast on Instagram and Facebook.
That is correct. Our guest today, Ryan, is a famous DJ, also done some acting, writing, bit of everything. A loving man. Just a really lovable human being. I've known him for years. And I actually, on his First Wave show, I was on that before. He asked me if I want to come on again. I do, Richard. This guy talks about his relationships with other musicians, talks about his career, his life. It's such a unique thing. He was around at such a unique time when his career blew up, those 80s, those early 80s and into the MTV era. And, and he is still around and still doing a lot of fun stuff. You could listen to him every week on First Wave. Let's get inside of my friend, Richard Blade.
It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience.
All right, the first thing this guy does is gets in here and starts talking about hanging out with Duran Duran. You were just in Chicago, Richard.
Yeah, just go back yesterday.
One of my favorite bands. So many people love Duran Duran. I've seen them in concert. I remember I met Simon Le Bon, and I was just like, hey, I'm a big fan. He's like, oh, great. He's kind of cold. I'm sure you don't know him as that, or do you?
Well, the thing is about being the lead singer of a band. Everyone wants you.
Yeah.
Even though John is there and Nick is there and Roger is there, the press tend to not know about them. The fans do. I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say that,
right.
But the press always we want the singer. We want that Simon guy. So he always gets the questions. He always gets the appointments. He always gets the time required. So sometimes he's so busy, he's like, yeah, hi.
Well, don't you think that's, it's par for the course? It's like if you're going to be the lead singer of a band, you're going to be successful. That's what's going to happen. If you're the lead actor in a movie, everybody wants to talk to you about it.
Exactly. But with Duran Duran, they've always been the 5 of them back in the day. Now the 4 of them, so everyone should want John as well. And everyone should want Nick and Roger because they're all loved by the fans, but still the press don't know that. So it's always, oh, yeah, I want Simon.
Right. I hear you. But like you go to Chicago and you talk to Simon?
Oh, well, yeah. And then Simon said, we're going out sailing tomorrow. Do you want to come?
No. He asked you to go sailing.
Yeah.
Did you go?
Oh, absolutely. Chris and I were on the boat and I I had to hold myself back because I wanted to ask him to sing Rio while we were on the boat.
Because that was the video, the music
Oh,
video.
absolutely. But he did wear the striped T-shirt. And if you go to my social media, there's pictures all over it. I didn't post them till yesterday because I was thinking, no, I shouldn't do that. But then they posted them on their social media and had this shot of me and Simon and then a picture of me chatting with Roger. And he goes, 24-hour contest. What's Richard Blade and Roger Taylor talking about? So, people could write in and put their posts up. Right?
Jesus, man, that's a dream. That's to me, if I was on a boat with Duran Duran, I think life had, that was it. That'd be it for me.
It was great. And when I got back from chatting with Roger, because Krista and I kind of just did our own thing, Krista said, I was just with Simon.
His lovely wife.
Yeah. And Simon was reading poetry to me.
Wait a minute. Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran. What was he saying?
He was reading different poems.
I saw you standing by them.
Exactly. He was doing it.
That is amazing.
I know.
You have lived a charmed life. I mean, you really have. And also a lot of people, I've never interviewed someone who's done what you do, what you've done.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it seems like, becoming an actor is just, it's so hard, and there's just a small percentage of people. There's so many more talented people that don't make it than the ones that do. Mm-hmm. And like the amount of work, did you know that you were going to get into this? What were you thinking as a child? You eventually went to Oxford and you're a smart guy and all this, but like with your family, what were you thinking you were going to get into?
I didn't know. I wanted to do something. I wanted to write for a long time. When I was a kid, I wrote a spec script for Doctor Who.
Oh, wow. Did you watch that show?
Oh, I love Doctor Who.
People love that freaking show, Doctor Who. There's so many people listening.
Yeah.
So you wrote a spec script for Doctor Who.
Yeah, and I sent it into the BBC and heard nothing back. It was like crickets. But,
they were like, Doctor Who gives a shit, Richard.
Yeah, exactly. But, unsolicited manuscripts, et cetera, they probably dropped it straight into the trash can. Oh, yeah. But I always wanted to write. And then I got into college. And one of the roommates we had in the dorm was the college DJ. And he was a great guy, Norm Holmes, but he was not particularly good looking or anything like that. But I noticed when he was DJing, all the girls got round him. And I thought, that's not a bad thing to do,
So you did it at first for the girls.
Oh, well, absolutely.
Okay, good,
Isn't that why anyone
honest.
gets into music or any form of entertainment
sure,
in a way?
The thought is, hey, because I never got girls. I was not attractive. I was the smallest kid in my high school. I never went on dates, never went to dances. And so all of a sudden when I did a play and people were like, oh, you're funny. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Well, what's this about? I'm getting attention. I need attention.
Mm-hmm.
Were you a little bit of an attention whore like me?
Absolutely. And as soon as the people, I wasn't the captain of the rugby. Actually, I was the captain of the swim team, but
really,
yeah. But it was a very big change when I started DJing. Suddenly, all the girls were around, and it was like, wow, this is kind of very cool. And I was warming up for Norm because he was in the third year and I was in the first year.
Right.
And so,
what was he playing? What kind of music? What year is it? Take us back.
Okay, this would be, oh my God, it's way back. This would be like 1972.
Wow.
So,
the year of my birth.
There you go.
You look good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. And Norm, we'd be playing lots of things like Free, All Right Now was the floor.
All right.
That was the floor fill.
Now.
Yeah.
Baby, yes.
And some other rock like Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water, Dom, Dom, Dom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Northern Soul. And Northern Soul was American R&B that was imported into the UK. And it was a very fast, up-tempo beat. And people loved that as well. And I loved it as well. And Bowie was big as well. Suffragette City. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. That packed the floor. And I noticed that, and I kind of tried to read the crowd. And Norm said after a few weeks, he said, do you want to do like the first hour? And I said, sure. So I would play the first hour. And then he goes, you want to do like the first 2 hours
What?
of a 4-hour gig, because it was his last year and he wasn't.
And you started getting good from this experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the 100, the 10,000 hours thing.
Right.
And so I was playing the music and making sure the crowd was dancing, but staying away from some of the big songs that Norm would play.
Right.
So I didn't want to step on his toes. And when he was leaving college, he said, you should take over as a DJ. And so the next year I came in and they made me part of the social club, and the college DJ.
And it just took off from there?
And it just took off from there. And the thing was, we rented the gear every weekend at £10 a time, $15 back then. And so I said to them, this is a bit silly that we're paying this money. Why don't we buy some gear? And that way we don't have to pay out the money. And they said, well, how much would it cost? And I said, I'd looked in the trades ahead of time. And I said, it'd be about £300 and we'd have our own gear. So in 30 weeks, it would be paid for. And they went, that makes sense. Can you buy it for us? And I said, yeah. So I said, I'm going to go down to London and I'll buy it and have it shipped up here. And so I went down to the end of our hill. We were on North Hinckley Hill. And there was the motorway going through, the freeway for all the Americans, the motorway going through. And I stood there and hitchhiked down to London. And I was there for about 10 minutes and this Mini Cooper S pulls up. This guy says, where are you going? I said, I'm going down to London. I'm going down just off Oxford Street to Tottenham Court Road to pick up. That's where all the electronic stores were. Yeah, to pick up some gear. And he goes, hop in. I'll drive you. I've got a store on Oxford Street. And so I jump in and he goes, so what's your name? I go, it's Richard. And he goes, I'm Richard too. And that's
But it
great.
wasn't Richard Blade then.
No, it's Richard Shepard.
Richard
Shepard. There
then.
you go.
Right.
And so we're driving down to London and he said, what do you do? I'm a DJ, And he goes, okay, great. He goes, I got this record store and everyone tries to sell their independent labels and local bands through my store because HMV won't and WH Smith won't, but I will. And he said, and I figured I should buy like a little recording studio. And that way the bands could not only make the music, but then they could sell it in my store. And he said, but I can't afford anything in London. The prices are crazy. But up here in Oxford, there's a lot of places I can buy that I've looked at. And I found this.
This is a random guy that you just gave you a ride into London.
Yeah, pick me up. But he said, I wanted to pick up a hitchhiker because I was so excited to tell him, I think I finally found a place. This was before cell phones or anything. And he was excited to tell someone that all these weeks and months of looking for a place, he'd found it. He goes, I found this farm that's great and I'm going to turn it into a recording studio. And it's actually got enough rooms that people could stay there. And I said, that's great. And he goes, and I'm going to, be able to put some of the bands that want to make music there.
Right.
They could stay for the weekend and it's going to be fantastic.
Did this become something big?
Well, yeah, it did, kind of. You might have heard of the guy.
I knew it was coming.
So,
I knew it was coming.
So he was great. And he goes, this is my record store. He points to it. And he goes, but Tottenham Court Road's another 1.5 miles down. I'm going to drive you all the way. And I go, oh, thank you, man. That's so nice of you. And so we drove past his record store, Virgin Records, and we went down to Tottenham Court Road. And
wait, did you just fly over the word Virgin Records?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, keep going. Yes.
So Richard drops me off, and he goes, well, best of luck, man. And I go, best of luck with the farm. And so that was the start for Richard Branson. Yeah, I know.
Wait. This is a random hitchhiker he picked up was you?
Yeah. And so
are you still friends?
Well, not friends, but fast forward to 2005 and he was on Loveline and Krista and I were driving back from the King's Head in Santa Monica.
I've done Loveline.
And I went, I should stop by and say hello. So I pulled off and went over to Culver City where they were doing Loveline from because they were doing it, I think it was on Premiere Networks.
Is this when you just started First Wave?
Yeah,
right.
I was just come back from the Caribbean and I wasn't with KROQ or anything anymore, but I'd left on great terms with them. I was friends with everyone, great friends with Drew and with Adam. So Adam I thought, I'll pop in and, see if I can say hi to Richard Branson. So on the very first break, they go, yeah, come and say hi to Richard Branson. So he comes out, all long blonde hair and everything. I told him the story and he goes, I don't remember you, but I remember picking up a hitchhiker. So that was you. And I said, yeah. And he goes, I just had to tell someone about it. I was so excited. Come here. And he gives me a hug and he goes, it's so good to see you again. So I looked at him and I said, so how did it work out for you?
Inside of You is brought to you by Neurohacker, Qualia Senolytic. Let me tell you guys, I've talked about this for a while. They have been a sponsor. And what I like about it is they stick around because I speak the truth. This stuff really has helped me. My brain is less foggy. I have more energy. These are things that have worked for me. And I was taking this product before they were a sponsor. So there. Have you guys heard about Senolytics? It's a class of ingredients discovered less than 10 years ago, and they're being called one of the biggest discoveries of our time for helping to promote healthy aging, helping to enhance your physical prime. Your life goals and your career and beyond require productivity. But let's be honest, the aging process is not our friend, and it comes to endless energy and productivity. Look, guys, if someone would have told me that there are science-backed ingredients that could help me feel 15 years younger in a matter of months, I would not have believed it. Then I tried Qualia Senolytic. As we age, everyone accumulates senescent cells in their body. Senescent cells may cause symptoms of aging, such as aches and pains, slow workout recoveries, sluggish mental and physical energy associated with that middle-aged feeling that I feel constantly until now. Also known as zombie cells, they are old and worn out and not serving a useful function for our health anymore, but they could be taking up space and nutrients from our healthy cells. Much like pruning the yellowing and dead leaves off a plant, Qualia Senolytic helps remove those worn out senescent cells to allow for the rest of them to thrive in the body. And I just take 2 times a month. I take it 2 times a month.
The formula is non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, and the ingredients are meant to complement one another, factoring in the combined effect of all ingredients together.
And, Ryan, it has a 100-day money guarantee.
Well,
money back guarantee if you don't like it. To me, when a product does that, it's no BS. They know their product works. And like I said, I've been taking this product long before they were our sponsor. And I was really excited when I found out they were our sponsor. But my energy levels are higher. I definitely feel a lot younger. I'm more productive. I don't know how you don't see that. Even when I did that live podcast, don't you think I was on fire?
Absolutely.
Fire, man. Ryan, let me just tell you what makes the Qualia brand unique. Fully transparent formulas, no proprietary ingredients, formulas created by top scientists, MDs and NDs, science-backed formulas backed with hundreds of research citations, powerful results, thousands of real-life changing reviews over 6 years and counting. Read the website. And a 100-day money-back guarantee, 0 financial risk to try any Qualia formula. It's all there. Help resist aging at the cellular level. Try Qualia Senolytic. Go to neurohacker.com/inside for up to $100 off and use code INSIDE at checkout for an additional 15% off. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The products and statements are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. That's neurohacker.com/inside for an extra 15% off your purchase. Thanks to Neurohacker for sponsoring today's episode. Today's sponsor, Nutrisense.com, uses a CGM right here under my arm, which is a small device that provides real-time feedback on how your body responds to the foods that you're eating, your exercise, stress, and even your sleep. Now, this is something that, look, guys, if you see, I'm wearing it. I'm wearing my glucose monitor because I have found out, I'm going to get into this, so just give me a second. Nutrisense really monitors my glucose levels. So when I find myself crashing, tired, you can just take your phone, because there's an app, I put it under my arm, the sensor retrieves all the information, and it shows my glucose levels for the last X amount of hours. And I go, wow, I spiked here. Well, that's because you had 3 root beers, dude. Maybe you shouldn't be having so much root beer. Maybe you should keep your glucose levels at a even place so you feel healthy, you feel better, you have more energy. It's not just for people who are, I guess diabetic or whatever. It's for people who want to live a healthier life. And that's what's happened to me. I didn't know what this was, and Nutrisense changed my mind on this whole outlook on health. Nutrisense helps you analyze your glucose levels in real time in response to food, exercise, stress, and sleep. Nutrisense includes 1 month of free board-certified nutritionist guidance and support. It really is awesome, Ryan. If you want me to get you one, you could. Your life, it shows you what you're eating and what you're doing. You can monitor all that. You take notes on this, and it's just so easy to say, okay, I remember I crashed, or I was really tired at 2:00. Why? Well, right here it says, well, you spiked and you crashed. And this is why this happens. And if you work and you're doing all these things, you need more energy, you monitor your glucose. And it's just amazing. My nutritionist helped me interpret the data and promptly answered all my questions. Patrick, thank you, Patrick, over at Nutrisense. I said, well, what are these? See how it spikes here and spikes here? Well, what exactly are you eating and drinking, Michael? And we managed it. And I said, well, what are better things I could have in my diet that I can get some energy but won't crash? And so he sent me a list of things. So it really is wonderful. In just the short time that I've done this, I've noticed better sleep. I've noticed sustained energy, less brain fog. It's because I'm not eating all those bad things. I'm not having all that sugar. And it's really helped me. And, I'm 51, and no matter how old you are, you want to have sustained energy throughout the day. And right now, visit Nutrisense.com/inside to save $30 and get 1 month of free nutritionist support. That's Nutrisense.com/inside.
And he laughed and he couldn't believe it. And then I said, can I get a photograph with you? And he goes, absolutely. And he goes, can my wife as well? I said, she's, obviously a huge fan of yours. And he goes, come on. And he picks up Krista in his arms like that. And we got this picture of him just standing there with the long hair. And I thought, this is a guy who really deserved the success because
a nice guy.
I know that all the employees of Virgin Air loved him. He looked after the ladies and the pilots and everything and really took care of the passengers.
Right.
And, he had Virgin Bride going on in England as well. I mean, he is just an incredibly smart guy.
What differentiated you from all the other DJs? Because you were able to make the cross over the Atlantic into the States and become this household name and join KROQ and do all these things, interview these big bands. I read something where you said you were sort of the conduit. Mm-hmm. You were the conduit to all the British singers and all these, to sort of give the American people what's going on, the information of what's going on overseas and the music that's over there.
Yeah, I've always tried to be on top of what's happening. One of the things that the local BBC that I worked for a very short time when I was in Oxford, it was BBC Radio Oxford, they had a sign up that said, engage brain before putting mouth into gear. In other words, know what you're going to talk about. And the other one was, if you've got nothing to say, don't say anything. And so I've always figured that if you've got nothing to say, don't just give the time and the temperature and the name of the song. Know a little about it. The audience deserves that. And so I've always believed that, whether it was working live or working on the radio. And when I was working in Europe, I toured Europe for 2.5 years in the clubs before I came over to America. And I really wanted to get into radio. And when I was in Austria, working at this club called Magic, this guy came up and he said, hey, I have a radio station that I run called U3, Austria 3, which was
Have you ever heard of that band with the Austrian Früher?
Yeah, Früher. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Dude, and we go, dude.
Yeah, though
dude.
They're actually Welsh.
Are they Welsh?
And they became Underworld. the EDM band.
Oh my gosh.
And they wanted to screw around with DJs. So they came up with an unpronounceable name. This was long before Prince became Cymbal Man.
Right.
You know, so they came out with F-R-E-U-R.
Freur.
So ladies and gentlemen, right now I'd like to play a song from
Yeah.
Doot
Freur.
Doot. But Doot Doot was, you're absolutely right, brilliant.
Brilliant.
So I was working in Europe, and I got the taste for radio again when I was went on Utrecht, and I was there for 2 months every Friday night doing a rock program, and I thought this is great. But the thing was, I was a novelty act. I was an English person speaking in English on a German language radio station, and I thought,
Right.
I got to go somewhere where they speak English, and there was hardly any radio happening in England. I mean, unless you were one of the 6 DJs on BBC Radio 1, you weren't getting anywhere.
Right.
And so that was...
So wasn't really a lot of money to be made.
No, decent money if you got onto BBC Radio
Right,
1,
but
but
that's rare.
that was it. That was the only gig in the whole country. And so I thought, okay, I make a list. There's America, there's Canada, there's South Africa, there's Australia, and there's New Zealand. They all speak English, one of those countries. So I put it in order, shuffled it around. America number 1, Australia number 2, New Zealand number 3, Canada number 4, only because it's so cold in Canada. Love Canada. Love Canadian people as well. One of my favorite countries.
Yeah, they don't get mad in Canada.
No, they don't. I just did a gig in Kingsville, Ontario, 2 weeks ago. Loveliest people in the world.
Yeah,
oh my God. Fantastic.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And South Africa was number 5 just because of all the racial problems there. And
Right.
I don't think I could work in a country, particularly then, that was apartheid, whites over here, blacks over there. I just could not put up with that. So,
But America was your top choice.
America was the top
First
choice. And then LA, because Hollywood and
you gotta-
sunshine, blue skies, California girls. That was the whole thing, because I've always liked ladies. And
Yes,
so,
you have.
Yeah,
as your book, World in My Eyes, states.
Yeah, so I
Which
flew
we'll get
over.
into.
Yeah, I flew over to LA, and for 4 years couldn't get arrested. So I went back to DJing in clubs and doing mobile discos and stuff like that. And kept going to every radio station in town, and they all said, sorry, can't have you. It's not going to work, but thank you very much for your tape. The worst was when I went to KMET. And at the time, I'd been doing gigs. I'd done a real lucky gig. I was asked by a event coordinator to do a gig for their client. And would I meet their client first? And would I caravan behind her to the client's house? So I said, okay. And I followed her, and we went up to Malibu, and we turned off just by Paradise Cove and went up the canyon. And she goes, this is Barbara, and this is Richard.
No, not Barbara Streisand.
Exactly.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Barbara Streisand?
She was my first big gig that I did. And it was her son's bar mitzvah for Jason Gould, the son of Elliot and Barbara.
Yeah.
And she put on this, she was the nicest person. Everyone said afterwards, oh, Guy, yeah, she's such a bitch and all this kind of stuff. She couldn't have been nicer. If you show up and do your job, she treated you like gold. The waitress who served me my food was Barbara Streisand. I mean, couldn't have been nicer. And she had everyone there. I mean, David Geffen was there. Neil Diamond was
Were
there.
you starstruck?
Not by her, because I didn't play her music much. I was in the clubs at the time. If it had been Anita Ward who was there, you can ring my bell.
But also, didn't she have that song? And we got nothing to be guilty of. That was a little disco-y.
Yeah, a little disco-y. And You Don't Bring Me Flowers with Neil Diamond.
Neil
So I
Diamond.
played that in the ballad section. But obviously, I knew who she was. I knew she was one of the biggest singers in the world.
Oh, yeah.
But there were so many other people there. Larry Hagman was there. And
Dallas.
so, yeah, and that was the great thing. He enjoyed the party so much. He took one of my business cards, and then I did the party at his house for the rap party for season 1 of Dallas.
So wait a minute. You started doing, so people, word of mouth, are you saying?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth, Richard Blade, he's the guy.
Dick Shepherd at the time.
Dick Shepherd.
Dick
And then you
Shepherd.
saw a movie, Ryan, you might have heard of this, called Blade Runner.
No, well, I saw it advertised, because the whole thing was, I did all these parties, and then I did one for Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Oh, yeah.
And that was up in the hills and it's one of the stilt houses.
Right.
And there were 2 people there that I was just thrilled to meet. One of them was my all-time favorite movie actor. And I'd never met him before. And the amazing thing was I met him again 2 weeks later, never again.
Who?
He came up to me. I saw him and I said, could I tell you something kind of weird? And he said, why? What? And I said, I went to school with a wet underarm because of you for about 3 weeks. And he said, why would that be? And I said, because my James Bond water pistol shoulder holster kept leaking. And he goes, I had one of those as well. I used to collect all of the memorabilia from the Bond movies.
Sean Connery.
I know. And he was incredible. He was everything.
You see, you're meeting your heroes and they're nice.
But
that's rare.
And they were everything you wanted them to be.
That's rare.
He looked
met
like
a lot of assholes, Richard.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of assholes.
If he looked like if he punched you, you were going down. He looked
Tough
like
guy, real man.
He looked like Bond.
This show is sponsored by Betterhelp. Ryan, you ever feel like your brain is getting in the way of living your best life?
All the time.
Yeah, I would say so. Like you know what you should do, what's good for you, but you just can't seem to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Therapy helps you figure out what's holding you back. So your brain can work for you instead of against you. And this is what happens with therapy. You have all these things bottled up and you need to let them out and you need to talk to a professional. It really helps. Therapy is a great way to learn positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And it's way more convenient with BetterHelp. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire. It took me like a minute. It's so easy. Even I can do it. Then you get matched with a licensed therapist. Switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Seriously, it's not uncommon. You meet someone, you're like, I want to try someone else. It's easy, just like that. BetterHelp is truly the best way to make your brain your friend. Give it a try. Visit BetterHelp.com/inside today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/inside.
And the other person, I was downstairs in the game room while everyone was upstairs eating. And they cleared out the pool table and everything. I put in my DJ gear. So I'm sitting there just kicking back, doing nothing. And this little guy comes in and comes up to me and he says, could I go through your records, please? And I said, sure, of course you can.
I want to guess this one.
And he looks through the records and I said, I have the new Victory album. They didn't mail it to me. He goes, you do? Could you put it on? Because we're getting ready for the tour. And so I said, anything that you want to hear? And he goes, yeah, shake your body down to the ground. He said, I'm getting the dance routine down. So he gets out and I put it on and he starts dancing to it. And I'm like, wow. And he goes, can you play it again? And I said, yeah. And he goes, do you have a cassette player? And I said, I do, absolutely. I can't do an impression of him, so I'm not going to try. And I said, absolutely. And he goes, I just came from the studio with Quincy, so
not Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson. And he goes out to his limo, and he comes in with a cassette, and he goes, we just put this together today. And so I play it for him, and he goes, stop. He goes, play that part again. And I go, okay. And he goes, stop. Can you play it again? And then when I point to you, turn it up loud. And I said, okay. So I play it again. Turn it up loud. And he goes, horns aren't loud enough on that. I got to tell Quincy the horns aren't loud enough. And so I'm listening and I'm playing rock with you, and I can't remember which one, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough from his album. But he was just on top of the music. He was listening to every single note.
He was obsessed.
Yeah, but focused. He wasn't one of these artists that let any other people do it for him. And then he would get out there and dance to this song. And I'm like, wow. Because I grew up with the Jackson 5, and he wasn't Michael Jackson at the time. He was just a member of the Jackson 5, and this was a band that had saved my ass so many times when I was DJing. Put on Dancing Machine, and
that will get people
the floor,
going, right.
And one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch, girl, and all this kind of stuff. And ABC, I loved all that music.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he took my card and he said, would you do some parties for me? And I said, sure. So I go to his house on Havenhurst in Encino.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I DJ'd about 12 parties for Michael Jackson.
Did he pay well?
He paid well. And then I did the launch party for the tour. And I had to be screened by the FBI. So I'm glad I had a green card at the time, because the Jackson 5 and myself were... it was the Jacksons, but they did the S like a 5 because they'd left Motown and gone to Epic. We were all in the bank vault of this bank that was on Wilshire Boulevard. And now it's like a clothing store, Yves Saint Laurent, but right across from the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. And the idea was we were in the bank vault and they were breaking out of the bank vault. And they had Entertainment Tonight there and all the TV cameras. And then I had my fog machine. So they,
Of course you did.
yeah, and they tried to give us a walkie-talkie, but the vault door was too thick for the radio
Wouldn't work.
signal. But they weren't locking the door, so it was opened slightly, so we had an XLR cable go through. And when they gave me the signal, it was 30 seconds before they would open the vault door, and that's when I dropped the dry ice into the fog machine, filled the thing with fog. Turned my one laser on back then. It was just a red
one.
dot, just like,
Right.
like Pong back in the early days going up and down. It was just a red laser going through and they opened the thing and the fog came out and the Jacksons came dancing
Come
through it.
on.
So it was great. And I was having a great time.
Were you seeing any like you're at all these parties and you're DJing all these parties and all these huge celebrities are saying, hey, you have a card and calling you and you're making the rounds and becoming a name.
Right.
Did you see a lot of drug use? Did you see a lot of darkness? Did you see a lot of craziness?
I saw a lot of craziness in the fact that there were a lot of women there going after the artists. But the drug
Who
use...
was the big one with the women?
Well, the Jacksons always attracted a lot
They
of
always
women.
had tons of women coming in and out.
Yeah. And Neil Diamond, actually, at Barbara Streisand's party, there was a lot of hangers-on going up trying to get close to Neil because he was a lot younger.
Did he like it?
He didn't really give them any time of day. He was kind of pushing them away.
Oh, my gosh. Neil.
But I was getting all this publicity, and I got the front page of the Los Angeles Times, a picture of me DJing with the Jacksons behind, and I was thrilled with that. So I put this whole package together with an audition tape and all my press cuttings and the fact I'd done radio in England and in Austria. And I went back out to the radio stations. And again, they shot me down.
All of them.
All of them shot me down. And the worst one was KMET.
Well, they say
I
anything?
passed her this. And I said, look, I just finished this, starting off the Jacksons tour, and it's front page and everything like that. And so I'm willing to do anything. I'll work overnight for a month for free just so you can hear me. You tell me what I can do. And the program director was female, and she pushed everything back at me. And she said, you'll never work in this town with that accent. And then just turned around and just didn't even want to talk.
What was her name? Do you remember?
I'm not going to say Sam's name. She had a guy's name. But I ran into her 3 years later after my tour.
And you said, fuck you,
I was
Sam.
I didn't actually. She came up to me, and she was had been let go by KMET. Actually, this was 87, and so I was really peaking. And she came up to me, and it was we were doing a grand opening in Beverly Hills. And she goes, gosh, you've been doing so well, haven't you? And I said, yeah, what are you doing now? She said, well, I'm not in radio at the moment. I'm a secretary. And I looked at her and I went, oh, no, but you'll do well. You'll do well.
Kill him with success. Just
all
being
I
nice
could,
about it.
all
You
I
don't
could
need
do.
to,
I
right?
had to hold it back. I just wanted to.
Because things turned around for you quickly.
Because I've never forgotten that to this day. Because I walked out of KMET.
Was this 1981?
No, this was end of 79.
79.
I walked out, and it was at Metromedia Square, and I walked out onto the boulevard there, and I looked up at the sign. It was a KMET that was written on the antenna, and I was like, you, one of these days, I am going to get into radio, and I'll show you. And then K-West, which is now Power, 105.9 K-West, they were having a contest for the best unknown DJ. And so you had to send in a 10-minute tape. So I put one together, and at the end of the 10-minute tape, I did a remix of Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall, which I made just using a reel-to-reel, you know.
Do you still have it?
No, but I could do it again so much easier now.
Yeah, take you 10 minutes now.
Because it's digital, you know, and I could do 40 tracks.
Right.
But then I was working with a 2-track TAC.
And it took you days.
Days and days. I thought either they're going to throw that in the trash because it's, you know, Pink Floyd, you know, who's messing with Pink Floyd, or they're going to like it. And they actually played it on the air. And then they said, instead of one winner, we have 2 winners for the best unknown DJ. And they picked 2 winners. And I was one of the 2 and got $10,000.
You needed that?
No, I didn't.
You were doing well.
I was doing well, but I'm not going to say no to it. And I got the most important thing. I got an hour on the air with J.J. Jackson, who went over to MTV a year and a half later.
With K West.
With K West.
Right.
And he, again, couldn't have been nicer. He goes, play whatever you want. And I put together a playlist knowing what they liked, you know. So there was AC/DC in there, brand new track called You Shook Me All Night Long.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and 38 Special and bands like that.
So you played 1 hour.
I played 1 hour.
And that went off with gangbusters.
And that went off great. My girlfriend at home taped it for me, but JJ taped it. He taped the whole show, and he gave me also a skim tape, which was only my voice and the first 3 seconds of music, because that's what you send into a radio station, because they know the songs. They don't want to sit through.
Ryan didn't know any of this shit. I don't think I knew any of this shit.
And so I sent that tape out, and I sent it to San Diego, to Santa Barbara, to San Francisco, to Bakersfield. And 2 days after I sent it out, I got a call from Bakersfield saying, we'd like you to come out because I think we want to work with you. And I said, okay. So I drove out to Bakersfield to Magic 98, and it was a hard rock station. And they said, we want to hire you as the nighttime guy from 6 to midnight and the music director. And I'm like, holy shit, the music, I'm Disco Dick. And they want me to, they want me to program a hard rock station. And I said, so what's the deal? And they said, well, throughout the day we get harder. At night we really rock. So we rock so hard at night you can't play Stairway to Heaven. That's too mellow. And I said, so what's the criteria for me adding music? And they took out Ted Nugent's Double Live Gonzo album, and they dropped the needle in the middle of Wang Dang Sweet Poontang. And they said, that's as mellow as we get.
Wow.
And I said, okay, I'll do it for a year. It was my goal, radio. So I was at KNAC, and so I went back to DJing in clubs before I did the overnight. I DJ in a club from 8 until 11, and then on the air from midnight till 6 at KNAC. And one of the clubs, La Hot Club in Encino, they decided they were going to buy commercial time to advertise it because it was going well. And I was playing this crossover music that was just coming in called New Wave that my dad was sending me from England. And it was getting busy. And so they said, well, we're going to advertise it. I said, well, KNAC plays New Wave. And they said, no, it's got no signal, can't be heard in the valley. We're going to advertise on this other station called KROQ. So
you were the first person to play New Wave at KROQ?
One of the first. KROQ was playing it, but I was playing it in the clubs. So they said, will you go and do the spot at KROQ, the commercial? Because otherwise we have to pay their DJs like $500 to voice the spot.
Right.
If you do it, we save $500 because we're not going to pay you anything. So I said, yeah, sure, because it just brings the crowd in for me and keeps my job going. So I went to KROQ and I cut the commercial, and the program director, the production director, it was really funny, so casual. I just walk into the production room. I said, I'm here to cut a commercial. Okay, go on in. Production director's there, John Logic, and he said, oh, you're going to cut a commercial? Okay, I'll go for lunch. I'll be back. Walks out. All this gear's there. I could have been Joe Blow off the street, walking out with T-Act recorders. But I cut the commercial, put it onto a cart, labeled it. I copied the way they did their labels and everything. He came back and he goes, it was really good. That's great. Thank you so much. So the spot starts airing, and the morning show, which was Ramondo and Evans, heard it. And they said, oh, who's the English guy? He should do some drops for us. So I came back out and I did these drops for Go to Bed with April. She was the nighttime girl,
right.
real good looking. She'd been in Playboy and everything.
You slept with her?
Oh, no, I didn't. I
tried.
I would have, but no, I'd try not to at work. I said, Go to Bed with April, wake up with Ramondo and Evans. Now, then all the jocks wanted me to do drops. And then these other clients of sales, the salespeople wanted the English accent. So I started doing commercials all over KROQ. So now I'm on KNAC, but my voice is all over KROQ. And then I get a call, you've got to meet with the program director of KROQ. And I thought, oh God, he's going to pull everything and tell me I can't do it. So I walk in and he said, we're doing this holiday vacation in Hawaii. And I did this deal with the DJs. If they could sell 20 spots, they go as well, because KROQ had no money and they couldn't afford to give the DJs paid vacations.
Right.
But if they could sell 20 spots on a plane to Hawaii, they could get 2 weeks off. And he said, so it's sold out. So we're getting local celebrities in to cover the air shifts. We've got Elvira coming in. We got Danny Elfman coming in from Oingo Boingo. He's going to be Moscow Eddie. We got Mike Ness from Social D coming in. But we got this open spot from 9 to noon, and we need someone. And we figured you'd be a good novelty because you've got an English accent. Would you do it? I said, yeah, 2 weeks. That sounds great. He goes, but I can't pay you. I said, that's fine. And you have to quit KNAC because I can't have you on both.
Boy, that's a test.
And I said, okay. I said, are you going to Hawaii? And he goes, I know where you're going with this. He said, here's the deal. It's taken me 1.5 years to put this staff together. And we're the Saturday Night Live of radio. He said, there isn't a bad shift. Every one of my DJs is exactly where they should be, and they're great. He said, they're all going to have a job when they come back. And I'm afraid I won't have a position for you. And I looked at him and I said, Rick, when you hear me on the air, you'll give me a job. And he said, okay. And so I went on the air. I quit KNAC, and I loved KNAC so much. And the people there, Norm McBride, the morning guy, and Jimmy Christopher, the program director, I didn't want to steal any audience from them.
But you did.
Because they had only a little signal. So I changed my name from Dick Shepherd, and I didn't know what to call myself. And even I went on the air that day, and I still didn't know what to call myself. And I'm flipping desperately through the Los Angeles Times, and I see Robert Hilburn, the critic, and I'm like, Richard Hilburn, no. And I wanted to go back to Richard from Dick. Richard Hilburn, no, that's not going to work. It's as bad as Richard Shepherd. I want something else. And I see Blade Runner. It's going to open in 2 weeks. I didn't know what the movie was about. No one knew. It hadn't opened yet. It was going to open in 2 weeks' time. So I thought, Richard Blade, that would work great. So this was when newspapers were yay big, right? So I drop it on the floor, and the song's finishing, and I come on the air, and I go, that was Flock of Seagulls and Telecommunication, but the fans call it Telecom. By the way, this is not Jed the Fish. This is me. I'm sitting in for Jed the Fish. He's in Hawaii right now. My name is, and I'd forgotten because I was so panicked that everyone in LA was listening. And I looked down, and the papers folded. Oh, I was going to call myself Richard Runner. Sorry.
Oh, because Blade Runner.
Blade
Richard
Runner. And I was going to steal the RR of Rolls Royce. I thought that would be a great thing,
right.
And all that. Richard
But
Runner.
you forgot.
Yeah, but I forgot. And I looked down, and it's folded, and it just says Blade. And I went, I'm Richard Blade, and this is OMD Electricity. And I started the song, and I went, oh, Richard Blade, I guess I'm stuck with that. So that's how that came about.
And that was it. And you worked for KROQ for how many years? 18?
I worked for 18 years. I gave my notice in February of 2000 because Chris and I were using Y2K as the out. We'd bought a house in St. Martin in 1997.
Were you burnt out at that point?
I wasn't really burnt out. I just wanted to do something different. I grew up in the south of England. I always loved scuba diving. I used to make my own wetsuits and stuff like that. But the water in England is cold. Even cold. Even
the
colder.
air is cold.
Everything's cold, and it's not that clear. On a good day, maybe I could see my hand at the end of my arm, underwater. I wanted to teach scuba in the clearest, warmest
but
water.
But you wanted to retire.
Yeah,
and you weren't old.
Well, from radio. Yeah, well, I wasn't even 50. I was in my
That's a big step to just say, hey, I'm leaving KROQ and I want to just retire and go to or at least go to the Caribbean or whatever.
But if I didn't do it then, when am I going to do it? Because we're all, on this one way direction. You know, we're all going to,
right.
yeah, unfortunately, you can't go back in time. And I'd done everything I wanted to do. I'd done mornings in LA. I'd done a syndicated radio show. I'd done half a dozen movies. I'd done TV, both hosting and acting. And I was a crappy actor. I was no Lex Luthor. I'll tell you that.
But you were done with that.
I was done. And I thought, not because I didn't like KROQ, but because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to experience it because my biggest nightmare would be waking up one day and seeing white tiles above my head and a bunch of leads and cords and drips going into my arms and then going, why didn't I try that? You know, you don't usually regret
now
things
you're
you
getting
tried.
somewhere. Now you're getting somewhere. I think that's we talk about that a lot, is like, we all have a purpose. And sometimes, a lot of times you have to find your purpose. And one thing is, I think people, we have jobs, and sometimes we're like, oh, we're making money and we're making a living and we're paying for the bills. But I think it's so important, whether you're making money at it or not, to find something you love. It's that passion on the side.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that you can do that just keeps the fires burning, the fire inside you burning. And so, I commend you, because that's a big step to just say, hey, I've got this, now's the time. I'm still young, and I'm going to change gears, and I'm going to take off for a while and reinvent myself.
But it was something I had to do. It was
right.
Yeah, and if you have to do it, you just rip yourself apart inside because you're regretting, why didn't I try that?
Yeah,
and
it's
it's like seeing that hot blonde on a Friday night. If you don't go up to her and say something, you regret it all day Saturday.
Or you regret asking her and then she says, fuck off.
But at least,
one or the other, at least you gave it a go.
At least you tried. Yeah.
You became really famous during this time with KROQ. It was like the biggest station out there. You're doing this new wave. You're doing music you love. You're introducing, one of the biggest music scenes in the world to British music, new wave music, alternative music. And in doing so, you were sort of, like I said before, the conduit. You formed huge relationships. I mean, I saw an interview where you're, after Andrew Fletcher of Depeche Mode passed away, and God rest his soul, you knew him, and you were texting with Martin Gore, who wrote all the Depeche Mode songs and still does, and he's texting you right back, and you have this relationship with so many people. And you dated the beautiful Terri Nunn from Berlin, Take My Breath Away, and you had a passionate relationship with her. All these relationships, did you ever get to a point where you mixed up in drugs? Were you mixed up in the scene? Were you drinking a lot? Did you always have a good head on your shoulders, or were you enjoying it like everybody else and getting in too much, getting too deep?
I never did drugs. I drank 2 times. I did cocaine twice. I never.
With who?
One time, it was with a record company, Geek, and a couple of bands in Riverside.
All right.
The other time, I was doing a TV show called MV3, and we at one point had the Psychedelic Furs there on stage, and 100 dancers. And the Psychedelic Furs, this was in June, and the sun was baking down.
What year?
June of 1983.
Okay.
They'd done their sound check, and for an hour, they were just standing on stage, and the dancers were milling around. And the floor manager finally said to me, he goes, if we don't roll tape, we're going to lose the band. He said, we got to do something. I said, well, why isn't he rolling tape? The guy upstairs, the producer. And he says, fuck, you know what he's like. He said, you go up. And I walk in. And to me, in hindsight, and I'm sure it wasn't this big, there was a mound of Coke, like in Scarface, on his desk. But I'm sure it's probably fist size. But to me, it was, a small Everest. And next to it, a snub-nosed 38, because the Teamsters had been coming around repossessing some of the cameras, and they'd already taken out the crane.
Right.
And so I said, we have to roll tape or we lose the band. And he goes, listen, Daddy, because he's had his vocal tick. Everyone was Daddy. Listen, Daddy, I'll roll tape if you do a line with me. I said, I can't do that. I said, I got to be on camera. He goes, you need it. It'll make you better. I'm like, if I do a line, will you roll tape? And he said, I'll roll it if you do a line. So I said, okay. And he gets this, I don't know, 520 or whatever it was rolled up. He does a sniff first. So I go down and do it. And I'm like, I'm expecting rainbows and unicorns. And all I get is I'm grinding my back teeth because I'm naturally hyper anyway. I'm like, okay, let's roll tape. And he goes, do another line. I said, that wasn't the deal. You said I'd do a line and we'd roll tape. And he go, why don't you get the fuck out of here and you tell him to roll tape yourself? You can do that, right? And I went, okay. And I went down. I said, all right, roll tape. And then from then on, it was me and a guy called Peter Facer. You know, I think you met Peter. Yeah. That would call all the rolls because the producer-director didn't do it. And 2 months later, the show went off the air.
But you never really, I mean, look, you got into Bands Reunited, you helped them, which is one of my favorite shows where they find members of the band and they get them back together for maybe one last show. And some of those bands actually continued playing for a while to this day. ABC,
Drama Berlin.
Who else? Flock of Seagulls. Well, he ended up touring most by himself, but you've done so much. You've written like 7 books. Yeah. You're getting a Hollywood Star of Fame in a year. There's a Richard Blade day that just happened, which was emotional, and you were in the courtroom, and they gave you the thing, and you were like, I mean, can you believe? I mean, when you look back at all the things you did, and a lot of times I say it's like sort of happenstance or it's luck as a commodity of preparation meets opportunity, and sort of that's how my life was. I was like this, and they go, oh yeah, oh well, okay, and then somebody remembers you, and then you get something, and then that something leads to something or nothing, and it's just sort of like you just hang around and you keep going, and it seems like you've worked so hard to get where you are, and you continue to work hard, and your work is so important to you. Do you now look back, and if you were under those, in that hospital room with all the things hooked up to you, would you say, hey, I've lived a great life. This is what I've wanted to do, and I've lived my dreams?
Yes, I would. I mean, we all have minor regrets when you've tried and failed. I mean, I wrote a script actually for a TV show that I loved, but I actually never was able to get it to the TV show in time. But I watched this show. I have them all on DVD, and I wrote this script, and I thought it was really, really good. And it opened fantastic with this fire bearing down on Smallville and Superboy putting it out.
What?
And it was all put together by Lex. Swear to God, one of these days I'm going to have to get you the script.
Please.
Yeah, because I'd written for a sci-fi show before for UPN before it became CW, called 7 Days, a time travel show. But no, I loved Smallville, and I have to say, thank you. You and your dad, best 2 actors.
He
on
made
TV.
me better. He made me a better actor.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Never missed an episode.
You.
No, it's absolutely true.
You're very sweet.
That's why it's so cool that I'm got to know you as a friend, and I'm sitting here today because Chris and I would never miss Smallville. We just loved it.
I love that.
It was fantastic.
It's just so I love it. I get little
And
stop.
I know there were certain episodes because when I wrote for 7 days, like in the middle of the season, there's a couple of what I used to call throwaway episodes, but some of the episodes of Smallville,
some of them were fantastic. I always say that there's some that are like we're doing a rewatch podcast now, and it's like some of the episodes I'm like, okay, this is the show that I'm proud to be on. I mean, there were some really great ones.
When Pa Kent is being buried.
Yeah.
When the snow and then the black and white.
Don't go there because people. People have watched.
No, it is.
But anyway, back to you.
Yeah, but you best Lex Luthor.
But thank you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
James Gunn, are you listening?
Yeah, he's listened, and he's. Yeah. I love him. But now I want to tap in just a little bit. Now, some of the people you've met, like who would you call friends that you could text of the big '80s bands that we love? Like, what are some of the people that you could text and they would respond?
John Taylor from Duran.
Yep.
Simon, obviously Terri and I.
Terri Nunn.
Yeah, she played last night in Perth, Australia. So I texted her again on Thursday, and I said, hope you're not flying in coach because it's so long. Plus Perth is another 5 hours. After Cindy.
I've done that. But Terri Nunn, lead singer of Berlin, one of the most beautiful people, inside out human beings. you know, if you don't know her, Take My Breath Away, and they have loads of songs riding on the Metro. I love the Metro. I like so many songs. But how long did you guys date?
About a year and a half.
A year and a half. And it was intense.
Oh, well, I asked her to marry me after 6 months.
And what'd she say?
She said, yes, but not right now. And then we broke up on the night she asked me to marry her. And it was something.
Not good.
No. We actually have a biopic in development right now about that one chapter in The World in My Eyes, the chapter called No More Words.
In your book.
But of course, everything slammed to a halt in May.
Why?
There was something called the writer's strike.
Oh, no. I don't mean, I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
I mean, why did your relationship with Terri suddenly stop?
I was cheating.
You were.
Yeah.
And you admit that openly in the book.
Very openly. I was, as my wife said when she read the book, because I said to her, I've got to be completely honest about everything in here. She said, oh, no, go ahead. Everyone's got a past. Don't worry. And then Krista read the book. She's like, oh, my God, you were such a man whore. And I said, yeah, I was. And I was so in love with Terri. I mean, she literally did take my breath away every time I saw her. But when she went on tour, I was, the hot DJ in town kind of thing.
Right.
And there were so many women. Someone I worked with used to say, when you're a DJ, the moment you put your lips against a microphone on a popular radio station, you change and become Brad Pitt. And
back then especially.
Yeah, because that was the only way you got your music.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I was screwing around all the time, but the moment Terri came back, there wasn't another person in the world, never mind another woman in the world.
But she found out.
But she showed up at a gig of mine, and I was with my co-host from MV3, and we were having an affair, and I was DJing. And a guy, 6-foot-tall guy in pink spandex with wings on his back came down to the club and he goes, hello, we've got a message. And I said, oh, look, singing telegram, I guess. Who's the message for? And I'm doing this on the mic, might make it fun for everybody.
Oh, boy.
And he goes, it's for you. And I went, okay, what is it? And he goes, no, it's upstairs. And so I went, okay, because there's a club called Mr. J's underneath a Chinese restaurant.
Jesus.
And so I said, okay, Hot Toddy's going to play the music for a little bit, the club DJ. I'm going upstairs. Anyone want to come? And so about 100 people came upstairs, and we go into the parking lot of Mr. J's in El Monte. And it was something that Terri had planned to do 2 weeks before when she'd got back for 3 days off tour. And we went to see Sparks together at the Hollywood Bowl, at the Greek Theater. But she couldn't get permission for what she wanted to do because of where it is. But in El Monte, they have a private airport right next door. So you can use planes there. You can't just fly over the Greek.
Right.
And so I said to the singing telegram, okay, what's the message? And as I'm saying that, Karen's got her arm around me and giving me kisses and stuff like that. And he goes, the message is up there. And so I look up and there's a plane that's just flying around Mr. J's in the big parking lot, and it's skywriting across its wings. I'm ready to jump. Marry me, Terri. And I went, just tell me she's not here. And he goes, she's over there. And I look and I see Terri's car, and the door is opening. And Terri is wearing the wedding dress that she was wearing in the Masquerade video. And she's halfway out the car and sees Karen kissing me. And suddenly realizes, oh my God, all the times I've been with Karen. And Terri slammed the door shut, and I just ran over to her car and held onto the handle of the car. And I'm screaming, I love you. I love you. I'm so sorry. I love you. And she just drove off with tears in her eyes. And the plane just kept flying over, saying, I'm ready to jump, marry me. And the crowd's going, was that Terri Nunn? And
you're numb. Your whole body's numb.
I just said to Peter, who was with me as well, take Karen home now. And we had a limo because I was doing the mornings, and the club went till midnight, so I could sleep in the car. And he goes, how do you get home? I said, I'll find a way. And so Terry goes off one way, the limo goes off the other, and the plane is just making fun of me by just flying around saying, I'm ready to marry you.
Did you ever talk to her again?
Not for 7 years. And the next time I talked to her, and this part's not in the book, actually. Next time I talked to her was on a Saturday. And I was doing my shift on KROQ, and it was, I think, probably August, and I was in shorts, tank top, baseball hat, unshaven, and the phone rings. It wasn't the hotline. She didn't know the hotline at that time. She was out of music. She quit the band in '86 and went through a bad period. And she called me up on the request line. I go, hi. She goes, it's Terri. And I went, oh my God, Terri, how are you? How are you? She goes, I'm great. I want to see you today. And I said, where? When? And she goes, as soon as you get off the air. And I said, where do you want to meet me? And she said, in Beverly Hills. The place is a Jag dealership now. It used to be a restaurant. And I said, okay, I'll go home and change. She said, no, come as you are. I said, I can't come as I am. Can't go to a restaurant. And she goes, it's not just a restaurant, it's my wedding. I was like, oh my God, okay. And I said, but I'm in shorts and a tank top and a baseball hat. And she said, I don't care, I want you at my wedding. And so I drove to Beverly Hills and went to her wedding in shorts and a baseball hat.
Did you cry?
I did. And her mother and I danced, and she said to me, we always hoped it would be you. And it's not the husband she's with now.
Right.
It was her first husband. It only lasted about 18 months, but it was hard. And then she told me a few things, and I apologized to her. And for the next probably 10 years, every time I would see her, I would say, I am so sorry. I am so fucking sorry for what I did to you. Because what I did was inexcusable.
But it looks as though, it takes a lot of guts to write in a book saying, I was a man whore. I did this. And I didn't like what I did, but I found my way.
Yeah. And I knew I was wrong. I knew when I was doing it.
You didn't deny
I was
it.
wrong. No. But it was, little head was thinking more than big head,
Yeah.
And it was really, it was awful what I did to her. Awful. But we'll see, they're talking about the biopic, and they really want to get into that chapter. But
wow.
she went through a bad period, and I really screwed up one of the most beautiful women on the planet for a number of years, and that I can't forgive myself for. I can forgive myself for losing her and for her losing me, but I can't forgive myself for putting her in such a bad position mentally.
Oh.
I know, because
you know what? She forgives you.
Yeah, she does, but
you don't forgive yourself.
No, not for that. No.
Yeah.
I don't. She's a great human being. A great
She is.
human being.
Did you ever go through depression? Did you ever, we talk about that, but did you ever go through like hard times where you need to see a psychiatrist or talk to them about, your issues? And because we talk about mental health here a lot, but did you ever have to deal with that, or did you ever?
No, I didn't. I had one very short bout, couple of hours, but I put a gun against my head in that very short period of time. And that was when I ended up marrying Karen. And it was a good marriage, but not a passionate one, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And I came home one day, and there was no note, no nothing, but some of her clothes were gone, and the house felt different. And so I made about 3 calls, and on the 3rd call, I got her sister. And she said, Karen's in Santa Barbara with her mother, doesn't want to speak to you for a week. She wants to get her head together. We never argued. It was out of the blue. It would be like you and me on stage at the Palace, and suddenly me turning around and hitting you with a baseball bat.
Saying fuck off.
Yeah, fuck off. And you were like, well, where? Hey, hang on. What happened? I had no clue what had caused anything.
And this just hit you hard.
It hit me so hard. And I called a couple of other people. I called Peter, got his machine. There was no one I could talk to. at the time. And I was just spinning. I mean, literally, almost like vertigo. And I'd bought a shotgun for Karen to have it as protection in the house. And because I was doing gigs, people knew when I was gone because I advertised it on the radio.
Right.
And I'm not into guns. I'm not a big gun person, but I figured a shotgun, you don't have to aim it, and it makes a lot of noise. So if someone did break in, Karen could just, pull the trigger and point it roughly in the direction and maybe make contact with a couple of the pellets, but the noise would.
But you got that dark.
Dark that I got the gun and put it against my head.
Were you really thinking about doing this?
I was going to pull the trigger, but I had a dog, a little dog called Angel, and Angel lay on my foot and started to howl like she knew what was going on. And I thought, if I kill myself, what happens to Angel? Is she going to starve to death? Maybe I should put some food down. So I put the gun down first, and then I thought, what the fuck am I doing? How would my mum handle this? She's lost dad. How would she?
Devastated.
Yeah, and that was the darkest I've ever been. And I've never been there before, never been there since. But for that 2 to 3 hours, it was, wow, didn't like it. Obviously.
Yeah.
Understatement of the year. I didn't like it.
Yeah. Well, you should have seen someone, a therapist, and talked to someone.
I didn't need to afterwards.
Really?
No, I didn't need to. I would go to a therapist. I mean, a lot of people do and get reward from it. But I've never been in that position where I thought I can't get through this myself. And if I had those thoughts again, I would definitely go to a therapist. Right. I would 100%. When Karen and I got back together, just over a week later, we went to a therapist together, a marriage therapist. We went 2 times. And she said, I don't see anything wrong with you as a couple. You don't argue. You seem to really relate to each other. And, but something inside was not clicking with us.
I know about that. I know about being in something where you're like, this person's great and she's this and that. And everything should lead you to think that everything's fine. And but then there are a few things that you just don't feel or you're not feeling, or you're just like, you can't force it. And there's no rhyme or reason. It's just a feeling that you're just like, you can't make something work that really just ultimately isn't there. Right. Missing, if you're missing a big component, the smallest thing that seems so trivial could be, that's it. Mm-hmm. All these other little things I could deal with, but this one is just like, I know what you're saying. I know that. I know the feeling.
And I've been fortunate with Krista. We've never had that. We have the same kind of relationship that I had with Karen, where we hardly ever argue. Yeah. I mean, we might say, "Oh, honey, come on, do this." "Oh, yeah, you're right," or "You're wrong," or whatever. But we never get into arguments. But I don't know what triggered it with Karen. I've got ideas what might have triggered it. But it's a shame.
Yeah. It's a shame. I'm glad you didn't do it that day. So was Angel at the time.
Angel was a great dog too.
But listen, I mean, I could talk to you forever, and I want you to come back because you have so many stories. It's just like I could just sit here and listen to you for days. But the book rolled in my eyes. You also have the other book. What is it? Tell me.
Okay,
you have 7 books, lockdown interviews.
Yeah, I have 3 nonfiction,
right,
and then 4 novels, and I'm writing my 5th novel right now. I have lockdown interviews, which were done during COVID when the bands had nothing to do but talk. Like with Boy George, 6 hours we chatted. So wow. I mean, it just it was incredible because normally when you get a band, you have 15 minutes because they've got Access Hollywood.
But you got deep.
Yeah. And so it was fantastic. Not COVID, but the lockdown.
Yeah.
And then the unlocked interviews were bands raring to go and get back out on the road, like Blondie and Roxy Music and people like that. Wow. And that's in the unlocked. And then the 4 novels, one of them is alternate history. But one is 2,000 years ago, a group of Romans survive a Atlantic hurricane, but are washed up on this strange shore, which is actually North Carolina. But you can't say that in the book because it wasn't North Carolina.
Right.
And they encounter a group of Native Americans who weren't Native Americans. They were natives at the time. And these 45 of the most hardened warriors in the world learn a different way, a way of peace and a way of love, until a great evil comes. And then the Romans have to decide, do we try and go back to Rome, or do we stand and fight?
Jesus, how do you?
And it's really
your
cool.
mind just goes.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You're so creative. You're doing what you love. Last question. Top 5 favorite bands of all time. Even a gun to your head.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no. Chris and I.
Not a gun to your head.
We play this game all the time.
All right. And now listen, I know you're friends with a lot of these guys, but so you got to really, in your heart of heart, top 5 bands.
Okay, top 5 bands.
I bet I can get one of them.
Okay.
Depeche Mode.
Tied at number 1.
Smiths.
No, who is tied with Depeche Mode? You think the Smiths?
No. Depeche Mode. Duran Duran.
Beatles.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Beatles.
All right.
And greatest song from the Beatles, for me, She's Leaving Home. That is a 3-minute movie. If you listen to the lyrics of that,
Write that down.
It's a movie. Most incredible. And the way the chorus changes from She's Leaving Home to She's Having Fun, just brilliant.
So
Breathtaking.
Depeche Mode, Beatles. It's got to be Morrissey or Smiths, I'm sure.
Tears for Fears.
Oh, I love Tears. I just saw him at the ball. Great.
Yeah. Sergio Mendes. My all-time favorite song that Krista's going to play at my wake in about 112 years' time is Mascanada. It's Brazilian.
I know it, yeah.
Oh, my God. What a song. It's just...
And what's the last one?
The last one is... maybe now Duran Duran. Having seen them recently a number of times in concert and realizing what an incredible body of work they have. Yeah. And I made a mistake a few years back when I was actually having drinks with Simon. We were talking about radio and touring and all different kinds of things. And I went, God, you're so lucky to have so many songs. And he looked at me and he goes, has nothing to do with luck. And he was right. He was right.
No,
it was work, I mean,
it's work.
They put it together because so many bands would kill to have that many songs. It's incredible.
Richard, this has been awesome to me. I just, so much insight. It's just like, I know little things about you and your talent in this, but I didn't know a lot of these stories and how all these things came together. And there's so much more to talk about. Get the book, World in My Eyes. He has so many other books. It's so interesting. If you love the 80s, if you love music, he knows so much about music, and your life is so interesting. And I'm so happy for you and Krista, and that you found your person. And thank you for being a friend and coming here today.
Oh, anytime. I'll come back, and next time I won't talk so much.
I like it. It helps me. It's easy for me.
Cool.
All right. You're the best.
Thanks.
Yeah. He opens up. He doesn't really hold back, and his stories are really interesting and fun, and it just puts me, I love that era. I love hearing about, does he know these people, or, meeting Duran Duran, or going out with beautiful Terri Nunn from Berlin. And it was just, it was fun for me. It really was. And I hope it's fun for you, any 80s folks out there. Again, patreon.com/inside of you. Join today, support the podcast. I will send you a message. We need you to support the podcast and Talkville podcast. That's patreon.com/Talkville if you want to support both podcasts. More so mine. But thank you for listening today. One of the perks of being a patron is you get your name. The top tiers get their name shouted out every month, every week, 50 episodes a week. Because I think we do 50. Maybe we do 51. Not sure. But, Ryan, let's do it. Okay. Here are the shout outs to the top tier patrons. Nancy Davis. Oh, do them in a spooky voice.
You should do all your spooky voices.
Leon Kristen, Little Lisa, Yukiko.
Your turn.
Jill E. Brian H. Nico P.
Robert B. Jason W. Sophie M. Raj C. Joshua D.
Jennifer N, Stacy L, Jamal F.
You're a New Yorker now.
New Yorker.
Janelle F, give me a taxi.
A.O. Janelle B. Ashley Ryan. A.O. Mike E.
Also, Jason, put some little creepy Halloween music over this. It'll be funner. Just like dee 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 dee. Held on Supremo, 99 more, Santiago M, Chad W,
Leanne P. Maddie S.
Belinda N, Dave Hall. Hello, Dave Hall.
Sheila G. Brad D. Ray H. Tabitha T. This is Dracula.
It is. I see that. It's very good.
Tom N. Talia M. Betsy D. Rhiannon C.
Well, let me tell you about Corey K. It's like Stallone doing a vampire. Dave Nixon, Michelle A, Jeremy C, Brandy B, Joni B, Joey M, Eugene, and Alia. That's Italian now.
Well, Dracula's vaguely.
He's
Italian.
kind of from Romania, actually.
That's true.
Not Italian. Corey, Angela F, Mel S, Christine S, Eric H.
Shane R. Andrew M. I was trying to.
That was good. I saw what you're going.
The show What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
Going for Nandor.
Nandor.
Guillermo, I understand you want to be a vampire.
Yeah.
Andrew M. and Amanda R. Jen B. Kevin E. Stephanie K. Jorel. Jamin J. Leanne J. Guillermo.
Luna R, Mike F, Stone H, Stay Wild Moonchild, Brian L, Kendall L, Kara C, Jessica B, Kyle F, Marisol P, Kaylee J, Brian A, Ashley F, Marion Louise L, Romeo the band, Frank B, Jen T,
That just close it out.
Nikki L, April M, April RM,
Yeah.
Randy R and Randy S, Derek N, JDW, Oro P, Ginger Insomniac, Rachel D, Lorelai L, hello, Lorelai, Melissa H, Nicholas W, Stephanie and Evan, Charlene A, and don't forget, Don G. All right. That is all our top tier patrons, but we love you all. Thank you for listening. I hope you come back next week because this accent could have pissed you off more than I could possibly imagine. But it won't be back next week. I promise you that. Thank you, Bryce and Ryan and Jason Nelkin for the wonderful editing and putting up with my horseshit all the time. I love you from the bottom of my heart. Michael Rosenbaum here from the Hollywood Hills in California.
I also have a heart.
I also have a hat. A hat on.
Jesus. I'm Ryan. I'm also here.
Little wave to the camera. We love you guys. Be good to yourself.